Cameron, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for joining me. Today I'm talking all about Spare by Prince Harry. I finally read it and I have so many thoughts. So I figured I would give just a very brief overview of what this book entails. So it basically starts from the very beginning. Prince Harry is born in 1984 and he's actually born Prince Henry of Wales, which totally throws me off, but his brother calls him Harold, everyone else calls him Harry. It's a little confusing. He gets married in 2018 to actress Meghan Markle, who's also a philanthropist. She's super cool. I love her. And he has two kids, Archie and Lilibet. In 2005, he joined the British Army and he worked in the army as a helicopter pilot and as a comms operator. And he's got countless charities and philanthropic missions, things like Centibale, Invictus, Archwell, so many to name. And he talks about all of this in his book, but it's all from the perspective of the spare to the heir, which is so crazy to think about because right in the beginning he establishes that he viewed his life and his family viewed his life as being the spare to his brother Prince William, who will one day become king after Charles passes away, which is so crazy. Your sole purpose is to be someone's spare. It's giving Sister's Keeper, it's a little crazy, but that is kind of the lens that we're looking at this establishment of the monarchy through, which is super cool and super interesting. I'm super fascinated with the concept of the monarchy and the establishment that it entails, because it's why do we still have the monarchy in today's times and climate? But I digress. We're talking about Prince Harry. So he views his entire life as the spare, and I have to say, that is such a crazy idea to wrap your head around. You're there in case something happens to your sibling. That's crazy. So the closest to becoming the monarch that Harry ever got was prior to George's birth. He was third in line, so there's that. This book was so eye-opening and so interesting, especially after watching the Harry and Meghan documentary on Netflix last month or the month before. It was very good timing for the book to come out after watching the documentary, because you really want to know, you get a lot of details in the documentary that you didn't get in the Oprah interview a couple years ago. And they talk about the interview, they talk about how it made waves, not in a good way, in England and for them. So also hearing about it in the book and what the ramifications of that were is so interesting, because this is a family that we never would have gotten this perspective on had they just treated Harry and Meghan well. So I think that that's very telling of the British monarchy and the establishment that it has created. Also very telling of Charles, because he could have stopped this. So really it's his own undoing, which is quite interesting. I found that learning about how crazy the paparazzi was is actually insane, because he talks about a bunch of news articles that you kind of just think of when he talks about it, but I didn't realize what would have been going on for them when that's their life. It's so crazy. There's so much that this book covers. Literally it's such a good build up to the end when he talks about leaving the not leaving the family, but taking that step back and deciding that he's gonna put his family before this entire establishment. It's so crazy. The craziest moments that I think Harry includes is when he talks about the multiple times that William kind of attacked him and grabbed him by the collar and was no, stop doing what you doing? Which is so crazy. Like, I have to admit, Harry, I was gonna say, is a great writer, but do we know that he wrote all of this by himself? It's a question for another day. I mean, like, I have faith in him, but did he write it all? I don't know. Do we know anyone really wrote anything? That's a whole other story. But, like, ghostwriters are so real and so prevalent in stuff like this that it's like, oh, there's some orchestration here. Also, what has he chosen to ignore in the book? I mean, literally nothing. He gives us everything, every little detail that we didn't even ask for. If you go on TikTok and you look at like some of the sounds that are like excerpts from the audiobook, it's like the most wild things you'll ever hear, especially coming out of Prince Harry's mouth. Especially because like he narrated it. And when I tell you that the people on TikTok are so good at like clipping together different sounds to create sounds that like aren't even in the book. Like there was one where he talks about like, I don't even know, but it was just not in the book. So yeah, some of the stuff you've heard on TikTok, definitely not true and not in the book. I would have to say I would rate it like a 10 out of 10 because I love the drama. I live for drama like this, especially on this scale. Like, this is really just a revenge plot against his family, and I'm here for it. I will sit and I will read everything that Harry and Meghan write. I will watch anything that they put out on Netflix because they've got a Netflix deal now. Like, I will do anything because the drama is so good. But on a more serious note, he really talks about his mother Diana quite a lot, and you like really feel for him because there's one moment where he goes to Paris and he asks to be driven through the tunnel in which like her car crashed after the paparazzi chased her. And like just reading that moment, you feel that raw sort of emotion. It really is quite moving. Like anytime he brings up his mom, he talks about her as her spirit being represented by like a beautiful animal. He talks about a hummingbird and I think a leopard or some sort of big cat like that. And it really is like, it really shows you the impact that grief has on anybody. And especially reading it like from this perspective when it was such a grand scale at which everything happened and everything happened so fast for him. And you especially see that in the book. It really is like quite saddening to see like this is how his story with being a member of the royal family has come together. It really is a bunch of very sad moments that are kind of woven together in the basis of his life in the family, which I think is very saddening for anyone, but especially for someone whose life is completely in the public eye. Like, it's crazy. He talks about how like some stories in the news and newspapers are just completely made up, and like the family can negate the claims, but often they choose not to because they have to give the press something in return. And that is really just like so impactful because you don't know what's true and what's not in the media already. But when you're hearing things like this, you're like, that's probably how it's like for literally anyone. You just have to have the means to be able to get rid of a story, which is so interesting. And like, that's a whole other conversation. Like, I just hate the way that print and news has become commodified in a way that like totally depersonalizes anything and is like so commercially and capitalist based. It's insane. And like, you really feel for this little kid on the back of the book. And when I flipped it over in the bookstore, I was like so surprised that that's what they chose to put on the back of the book. But I think that that's so powerful because like that is who this is. Like, he is this kid, and if he could tell this kid what was gonna happen, I doubt that that kid would believe him because it's so flabbergasting. It's absolutely insane. I can't remember if I've said, but I would rate this book a 10 out of 10. Oh, I think I said I would rate it 10 out of 10 for the drama. I would also rate it 10 out of 10 for the amount of emotion it evokes. Like, it can become quite an emotional read once you've entered that headspace of, like, critique of the media and, like, the way everything has played out for Harry and Meghan. It really is eye-opening. I hope you enjoyed my takes on this book. I found it to be a really good read, and I definitely recommend it if you like Harry or if you don't. The information he gives you about the system that the royal family operates in is just so interesting that I think you would enjoy it. I don't see, like, you hating it, because it is quite good. It's a good read. Literally every bookstore has it right now because it came out last month, and I'm a little slow on getting this up because I spent so much time reading it, but it really was a good read. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like, subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. That's always nice to see. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!